There has been no trace of her, and tonight her father says not knowing what happened is the hardest part.
If you see this, Rachel, we love you. Please let somebody know what's bothering you, what's happening, and we can work it out. We can all work it out because we're all in this together.
On January 31st, 1996, a 13-year-old honor student vanished from her home in Bolingbrook, Illinois, during sub-zero temperatures. She left behind her coat, her shoes, and a diary that would reveal a horrifying secret. Nearly 3 decades later, no arrests have been made, and Rachel Mellon-Skemp has never been found. Mellon-Skemp was born on October 13th, 1982, to Jeff Skemp and Amy Mellon. Her mother, originally from the Philippines, had met Jeff in the early 1980s. But by the time Rachel turned 3, her parents' marriage had ended. Amy soon remarried a man named Vincent Mellon, and the family settled in Bolingbrook, Illinois, a southwest suburb of Chicago. Vincent became Rachel's stepfather, and together Amy and Vincent had 2 more children, Jason and Ashley. By January 1996, Rachel was a 7th grader at Bernhardt J. Ward Middle School. She was an honors student. Her favorite subject was science. She played guitar, loved Alanis Morissette, and was passionate about recycling and nature. Friends described her as bubbly, vivacious, with a great sense of humor and an old soul. January 31st, 1996, was a brutally cold day in Illinois. The temperature hovered at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, with bitter winds cutting through the Chicago suburbs. Rachel stayed home from school that day with a sore throat. Her mother, Amy, went to work. Her younger half-siblings, Jason and Ashley, went to school. That left Rachel alone in the house with her stepfather, Vincent Mellon, who was unemployed at the time. According to Vincent's account, he and Rachel spent the early afternoon playing video games together. Around mid-afternoon, Rachel decided to take a nap. She wrapped herself in blankets and grabbed 2 pillows. Vincent claimed he then decided to take the family dog for a walk, despite the sub-zero temperatures. He said he left the door unlocked when he left. According to his story, the dog escaped from its leash during the walk, causing him to be gone longer than he intended. When Vincent returned home, he didn't check on Rachel. At approximately 3:15 p.m., Rachel's half-sister Ashley came home from school and noticed that Rachel wasn't in her room. But it wasn't until around 5 p.m., when Amy returned from work, that anyone realized something was wrong. Rachel was gone, and she's never been seen again. When police arrived at the Mellon home, they immediately noted several troubling details. First, despite the Arctic temperatures outside, Rachel's winter coat, shoes, money, and Walkman were all still in the house. The only items missing were the blankets and pillows she had been using. Initially, investigators believed Rachel might have run away. She had left home once before, about a year earlier, in the spring of 1995. She'd stayed at a friend's house for 12 hours after fearing she'd be blamed for something her younger siblings had broken. But she had returned voluntarily. This time was different. What 13-year-old girl runs away in 0-degree weather without her coat, shoes, or any belongings? Police turned their attention to Vincent Mellon, the last person to see Rachel alive. And almost immediately red flags appeared. Vincent had visible scratches on his body. His explanation? He got them while repairing his car. He was administered polygraph tests. He failed them. He also had a documented history of domestic violence, but there was no physical evidence, no crime scene, no body, no witnesses, just a missing girl and mounting suspicion. 4 years after Rachel's disappearance, in March 2000, investigators made a disturbing discovery. They found Rachel's diary. Police have never explained why it took 4 years to locate this crucial piece of evidence. What they found inside was devastating. In an entry dated August 7th, 1995, just months before she vanished, Rachel wrote about her stepfather, Vincent Mellon. According to her own words, Vincent had kissed her on the mouth and touched her inappropriately. He had told her she shouldn't tell anyone and that these things shouldn't happen until she was older. This was the man who was alone with her the day she disappeared. The man who claimed he had no idea what happened to her. The man who failed lie detector tests and couldn't explain the scratches on his body. In January 2000, a grand jury convened to investigate Rachel's disappearance. They examined the evidence. They heard testimony. But when the investigation concluded later that year, no indictments were handed down. Vincent Mellon walked free. Investigators explored multiple theories about what happened to Rachel. They investigated whether Rachel's biological father, Jeff Skemp, who was living in Dallas at the time, might have been involved. They searched his home, his parents' home in Dallas, and his sister's home in Mississippi. They found nothing. They investigated whether Rachel's maternal relatives in the Philippines might have taken her out of the country. Again, they found nothing. But Jeff Skemp has his own theory.
I think that if the police search their garage the night that they first get called there, especially knowing how many times they've been called to that house, if they search that garage and open up the trunk of that car that didn't run, I bet they find her.
He believes police missed their chance to find Rachel's body the night she disappeared. In interviews, he stated that if police had searched the garage that night, especially given the domestic violence history at that address, and opened the trunk of the car that didn't run, he believes they would have found her right then and there. Sometime after 1996, Vincent and Amy Mellon moved away from Illinois to Tennessee. They later moved again, and attempts to reach them by media outlets have been unsuccessful. The investigation was officially reclassified from a missing person case to a homicide investigation, despite the absence of a body. Today, different detectives are handling Rachel's case. The Bolingbrook Police Department maintains that the investigation remains active, and preserved evidence is examined annually to see if new forensic technology might finally provide answers. Jeff Skemp has lived in limbo for nearly 3 decades. In 1996, he told reporters he needed to keep hope alive that his daughter was still out there somewhere. But time has worn away that hope. Today, Skemp says he's made peace with the strong possibility that Rachel is no longer alive. In 2006, he held a memorial service for Rachel. He keeps his phone number listed in case she ever tries to contact him. But he no longer expects that call. In interviews, Skemp has spoken about who Rachel might have been today if she had lived. He believes she would have been on the front lines fighting against racial injustice, social injustice, and police corruption. She would have been helping those who were struggling and suffering. She cared deeply about the environment and about making the world better. Instead, her life was cut short at 13 years old, and her story has become one of the Chicago area's most baffling cold cases. If Rachel Mellon-Skemp were alive today, she would be 42 years old. Her case remains listed with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NamUs, and the Doe Network. The Bolingbrook Police Department states that the case is still active, but for those who knew and loved Rachel, the questions remain. What really happened on that frozen January afternoon in 1996? Why has no one been charged despite overwhelming suspicion pointing in one direction? And most importantly, where is Rachel? Rachel deserves justice. Her family deserves answers. And after nearly 30 years, maybe someone out there finally has the courage to come forward and tell the truth. If you have any information about the disappearance of Rachel Mellon-Skemp, please contact Bolingbrook Police Department. Rachel deserves justice. Her family deserves answers. And after nearly 30 years, maybe someone out there finally has the courage to come forward and tell the truth.
Well, 8-year-old Zachary Bernhardt vanished from Clearwater, Florida in the early hours of September 11th, 2000. Not a single piece of credible evidence has been shared with the public in more than 2 decades until now. News Nation Live anchor Marnie Hughes has the latest on this story in our Missing series.
On September 11th, 2000, while America slept through the final hours before a day that would change everything, an 8-year-old boy vanished from his home in Clearwater, Florida. His name was Zachary Bernhardt, and 25 years later, he remains the subject of Florida's longest-running Amber Alert. Zachary Michael Cole Bernhardt was, by all accounts, a happy child. His teachers at Eisenhower Elementary School described him as cheerful and intelligent, a third grader who earned good grades and never caused trouble. Those who knew him saw a boy with an optimistic spirit, one that seemed untouched by the instability that defined his home life. Behind that bright smile was a reality far less stable. Zachary lived alone with his mother, Leah Hackett. His father was never part of his life. Mother and son moved constantly. At the time of his disappearance, they were living at the Savannah Trace Apartments on Drew Street in Clearwater, and they were facing eviction. The night of September 10th, 2000, started like many others in the Hackett household. Leah Hackett worked overnight shifts and kept late hours, so her sleep schedule was unconventional. That evening, she put Zachary to bed around 11 p.m. What happened next depends on whose timeline you believe. According to Leah, she suffered from insomnia that night. Unable to sleep, she left their apartment sometime between 2 and 4 a.m. She told police she went for a walk and took a swim in the apartment complex pool without a towel. She left the apartment door unlocked. Zachary was asleep in her bed. At 4:53 a.m., Leah Hackett called 911 to report her son missing.
I can't find my son. I went to the pool and then I came back and I got a good shower and he wasn't here. Doctor, you know what I'm on my door. What's on mine? Is this my fault?
How long she had been gone remains disputed. Some accounts say 15 minutes. Others claim as long as 2 hours. When police arrived at the scene, Zachary was simply gone. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle. Nothing. Within hours, the Clearwater Police Department launched a massive search operation. Hundreds of volunteers combed the area on foot. Helicopters swept from above cadaver dogs, worked through the brush. Wave runners searched the waterways. The entire community mobilized to find an 8-year-old boy who had vanished in the middle of the night. But Zachary Bernhardt was nowhere to be found. From the beginning, investigators found Leah Hackett's story problematic. Her behavior raised immediate red flags. On September 15th, just 4 days after her son disappeared, she made a brief public statement asking people to keep looking for Zachary.
Come home. We're all here waiting, so please don't stop looking for Zach.
Then she went silent. 2 weeks later, detectives made a public statement of their own. They didn't believe Leah Hackett was telling them the whole story. Neighbors reported seeing her car moved during the time she claimed to be home. Each time investigators questioned her, she maintained the same account, never wavering, never changing details. But police couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Then, months after her son vanished, Leah Hackett did something investigators had never seen before in a missing child case. She moved to Hawaii. She left the state entirely, putting thousands of miles between herself and the place where her son was last seen. She eventually stopped cooperating with the investigation and changed her last name to Hanson Zachary's aunt, Billie Jo Jimenez, defended her sister's decision. She stated that Leah needed to leave Florida for her mental health, that people had no idea what it was like to walk in her shoes. But for investigators and the public, the optics were damning. Despite the suspicion, Leah Hackett has never been named a suspect in her son's disappearance. Police have never had enough evidence to charge her. The case remains officially open, with no one excluded from suspicion. In 2001, nearly a year after Zachary vanished, police received a tip that seemed like the breakthrough they desperately needed. An informant told them about a man named Kevin Jalbert, who lived near Zachary's apartment complex. Jalbert, according to the source, had been bragging about being a murderer and was looking for a new victim. Investigators put Jalbert under surveillance. They sent in an undercover officer, and what Jalbert told that officer was chilling. He claimed to have abducted and sexually assaulted over 1,000 minors. He said he had murdered 5 of them. During a drive-through of the area, Jalbert pointed directly at Zachary's apartment complex and stated he had kidnapped a child from there. Police believed they had found their suspect. But as they investigated further, the case began to fall apart. Jalbert pointed to the wrong apartment unit. He described the child he allegedly abducted as wearing Mickey Mouse underwear and Scooby-Doo pajamas. Zachary had been wearing boxer shorts. DNA evidence collected from the scene didn't match Jalbert. And when confronted directly about Zachary, Jalbert denied any involvement. Police did discover that Jalbert had visited a landfill 2 weeks after Zachary disappeared. They searched the site. They found nothing. While investigators couldn't connect Kevin Jalbert to Zachary Bernhardt, they did find child abuse material in his home. He was convicted on 60 counts of child, attempted murder, and attempted kidnapping. He's currently serving a 40-year sentence. His sister has stated publicly that he's a pathological liar who exaggerates to get attention. Whether he had anything to do with Zachary's disappearance remains unknown. In August 2001, a disturbing photograph was discovered in a parking lot in Boulder, Colorado. The image showed a young boy who appeared to be bound in a wooded area. The photo was circulated to police departments nationwide. Investigators examined it, hoping it might be Zachary. The child in the photograph was never identified. Today, Zachary Bernhardt would be 33 years old. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has created age progression images showing what he might look like. His family has never stopped searching. Zachary's grandmother, Carol Bernhardt, and his aunt, Billie Jo Jimenez, have kept his case alive. They attend Missing Children's Day events annually. They've never changed their phone numbers or addresses, hoping that someday Zachary might find his way home. In recent years, a photograph circulated on social media showing a drifter in Ocampo, Mexico, who bore a striking resemblance to the age progression images of Zachary. The lead was investigated. It went nowhere. The Clearwater Police Department maintains that Zachary's case is still active. On the 25th anniversary of his disappearance, they released a statement. Just as much as the day this case was first reported, Clearwater police detectives are still working diligently to bring Zachary home. The disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt remains one of the most perplexing missing child cases in Florida history. Was he abducted by a stranger while his mother was away? Did someone who knew the family take him? Or does his mother know more than she's ever told investigators? 25 years later, we still don't have answers. What we do know is that Zachary Bernhardt's Amber Alert, the longest running in Florida history, remains active. Somewhere, there may be someone who knows what happened in the early morning hours of September 11th, 2000. Someone who saw something, someone who heard something, someone who knows where Zachary Bernhardt is. If you have any information about the disappearance of Zachary Bernhardt, please contact the Clearwater Police Department. You can also contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. All tips can be made anonymously. Zachary Bernhardt was 8 years old. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. He loved school. He had his whole life ahead of him. And somewhere, his family is still waiting for him to come home. The disappearances of Rachel Mellon-Skemp and Zachary Bernhardt remain two of the most perplexing missing persons cases in American history. Both children vanished under strange, unsettling circumstances. And despite extensive searches, investigations, and passing years, not a single trace of either has ever been uncovered. What do you make of these baffling cases? Do you believe Rachel Mellon-Skemp or Zachary Bernhardt will ever be found? Or against all odds, found alive? Their stories leave behind a haunting sense of mystery, a chilling reminder of how someone can simply disappear without a clue. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video compelling, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all future uploads. As always, thank you for watching.